time. It's our time, my friends. Time for millions of maturepreneurs, 55 plus, who are hashtag not done by a long shot, to revolutionize how we lead, do business, and innovate our world. I'm your host, Jeanette Anderson, and welcome to my conversations with fascinating people who would rather inspire than retire. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Maturepreneur podcast. I am so happy to have Andrea Woolf with me here today because we're going to have a big discussion about how to ignite your dream life. You deserve to live your dream life. And if you haven't been up till now, pitter patter, let's get at her. What are you waiting for? And if you have been, great. How can we up level that or ignite even more sparks in you, whatever that might be for you. So welcome, Andrea. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you. So great to be here with you.
So tell me where in the world you are. Where are you located?
I'm in South Orange County, California. I'm a recovering Brit. I'm originally from London, many moons ago, decades ago. This is definitely home.
I can hear a tiny bit of the accent, but not very much left anymore. But if you're going to live somewhere, Southern California is a nice place to be.
Yeah. I'm holding on for dear life because people think I'm intelligent.
There you go. It does actually earn that reputation. It does sound very educated and so forth. So, all right. The reason I'm going to tell you the official information about Andrea, but she was referred to me by someone who I really love and respect, Lisa Reed, who is a speaker and has been in the realm for a long time. So I just knew that anyone that she recommended was going to be someone I would like, that was probably a sister from another mister. So we're going to explore how to be a coach for 35 years, amongst other topics. So hang on, this is going to be a whirlwind ride. So let me tell you a little bit about Andrea first. Andrea Woolf is a business and personal coach with 35 plus years of experience. Yep, there we go. There, and helping women entrepreneurs. She specializes in helping women bridge the gap. I'm just moving your intro over here. There we go. Bridge the gap between their current reality and their dreams for the future in both their business and personal life. Andrea understands the unique challenges female entrepreneurs like you face today, such as balancing professional dreams with personal responsibilities or overcoming self-doubt and overwhelm. And she makes it fun, which is a very good thing. So, and by the way, gentlemen, if you're listening to, you're still going to get some tips, even though she's really good at helping women balance their life. I'm sure you can use some of these applicable tips as well. So that's the official word about you. Tell us something outrageous or unusual that we would not expect if we read your very proper website and heard your intro. What's something that people would be surprised by?
Well, I've just completed 3 years of treatment for the most aggressive breast cancer on the planet. I'm an overachiever, so no surprise there. But it's been extraordinary and great stuff along the way. And I have a gift around that, which is not, it's a short book, and I want to gift it for everyone here. But it's really been an eye-opener because I am very positive, as you can probably tell. And I was called forth to actually walk my own talk, right? I had a meeting with myself in the mirror actually to do this, to actually walk my own talk, right? To not just default to worry, fear, and self-doubt, which would have been so easy to do because this was a huge journey. But anyway, so I literally have just completed the last surgery, literally in the last week. So yay, I'm here, I'm alive and kicking, and here's to the next 35 years.
I was going to say, how many years are you going to put in there?
I love what I do.
You're going to say 50, and I'm going to say, see, you're overachieving yet again. But
I love what I do. This is the point. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I hear so many people like you. So first of all, congratulations on not only coming through to the other side of that, but coming
Yeah.
through with such intentionality and positivity and being like obviously quite indomitably unstoppable because you just finished the surgery this week and here you are bright and shiny and raring to go. So yeah, cool. That's very cool. Um, I have heard a number of people in my journeys around this maturepreneur exploration talk about, yeah, I'm gonna probably only go hard for maybe another 10 years and then I'll slow down a little bit, but not much. That was from a 68-year-old woman who wanted to start a social enterprise. And so she only wanted to go hard for another. And in that pause, I even found myself thinking 2 or 3 years. I've been trained like everyone else to think that we want to slow down at 65, maybe 70, but not. And she said for another 10 years. And I just started laughing because even I, who do this for a living, have to update my perceptions um, around what we can do, want to do, who we want to be, etc. That we want to really make sure that we're not coming with these preconceived notions about we're all done when we're 60 or 70 or 80 or 90 or 110. So I love that.
I'm actually 69 for anyone who wants to know. Yeah.
Awesome. So great. Another 35 will get you just over that 100-year mark. I love that. Okay. So let's talk about speaking of longevity, you've been coaching for longer than coaching has been a thing, an industry.
Oh.
So tell me about that a little bit, and then we're going to talk about your why. So tell me, how did you get into coaching 35 years ago?
Oh God. So I was in a high-level position in a multinational corporation,
Mhm.
working for the vice chairman of the whole thing worldwide. So to say I was busy is a massive understatement. And I often worked till 11 o'clock at night, right? So I had a fully stocked kitchen. I was in the worldwide corporate headquarters. And so I didn't cater. I don't cook actually, but I had snacks, stuff to eat, and soft drinks and stuff like that. So people who were as crazy as me would stop by in the evening and just we'd have a chat for a bit, and then I'd feed them and so on, and then they'd go. So one of these guys was he worked in the marketing department. Wonderful guy, Rick, and he came by one evening, and he looked happier. He looked much happier than he looked in a long time. So I said, "What are you taking?" And he laughed and said, "What do you mean? What am I taking?" I said, "Well, you look really happy." He said, "Well, I've just started coaching training." And uh, so this is back in England, but it was the very beginnings of it, right? And so I said, "Well, what's coaching?" And he was like 3 sentences in. And I said, "Tell me about the training." And then it was weekend, so I could do it, right? Because I no way I could have done it during the week. And so I signed up right away. And as I was going through this training, it was like there was this awakening of this is who I am. So to sort of jump back to my past, when I was like 3, my mom was a hairdresser, and my favorite thing to do was go with her to the salon. I've loved chatting my whole life, right, and chat with her clients.
Mhm.
And apparently, I obviously didn't have this awareness at 3 years old.
Mhm.
But what I would do is I would get them talking about whatever their biggest challenge was.
Mhm.
And I would actually find out what they were going to do about it this week. And then I'd come back a week later and check in how they were doing. Right. So this
That's
is
a pretty aware
before
3-year-old. It was in your bones.
it was in my being, right?
Yes.
And so that's the base of all this, right? Um, yeah.
That's
So
fascinating. Well, and
yep.
that does kind of tie into your why. So clearly you had a predisposition towards this kind of career, but why does this work matter to you so much? Why have you been doing it so long? Why has this been, what's your purpose in life?
To uplift, to support, to challenge, I really look, even when I was getting chemo, even when I was getting chemo, the main thing I did in that cancer center was I would see women who were struggling through this, obviously didn't have the support I had. And if I could, I would sit next to them. And if I could get a giggle, it was a major victory, right? I would uplift. I mean, and while I was going through it, I'm like making notes, and from those notes, I created a book because I'm all about making a difference. I mean, really, from my heart, I'm saying this. I'm all about, especially women, uplifting. I've worked with men and women, a few confused people. I've worked with everything, right? But now, in this time now, I am very clearly focusing on women. And it's, we're complicated. We are interesting creatures, us women, and we make things much more complicated than they need to be, much harder. And it's easy to just slightly shift your focus. If I can do that, then it's an opening, and then we go through that opening and we expand the opening, right? So it's just, it's in my DNA. I can be in line at the supermarket, right? And somebody looks and we get talking and like that. So I have my way of being is very attractive. You know, people are drawn to me. So that's a blessing, right?
Right.
I'm here to make a difference. You know, this is not about me, not about how great I am at all. But this is, it's in my lifeblood. It's in my way of being. How am I explaining it? It's like,
Well, kind of, and so let me tell you, I have a slightly different perspective on your why. My definition of your why is what you're healing from the past and what you long for the future for yourself and others. And so often what I get is as an answer to what why is what you do. And what you do is uplift and support and make a difference. And that's the what you do, and that it is part of your nature. That's one of the things with people who are brilliant at what they do and have been doing it so long. It is natural to us. It is part of our DNA at this point. But
yeah.
I'm always really curious about the why. Why is it so important to you to uplift women?
Well, I'm going to say something crazy right now.
No, good.
I believe in the possibility of world peace.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely believe it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
We're not there yet, for absolute sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe that it's going to take more of us women waking up
Mm-hmm.
and generating our energy more out into the world. Where if there were more of us doing that, we might shift to getting closer and closer to world peace.
Yeah, I don't think that's crazy at all. I think that's just what is.
Okay, thank you.
You
Yeah.
know, I'll tell you a quick story. I got this download about this thing called Bodacity about 10, little over 10 years ago during a meditation. I wrote out 11 pages in my journal, and it was all about shifting the world from fear to love, one happy world woman at a time, happy and empowered woman at a time.
Love
So
it.
great.
Love it.
Was this mission, it was mindset, a community, a global movement, and I wrote out the whole business model and strategy and everything. And then I read it and I literally closed the book and said, I don't know why you're telling me this, God, universe. This is not my jam. Like, why are you telling me? You should be telling someone else. And I spent about 8 years in resistance because I'm stubborn. And I'd get the call and I go, but I don't even really like women, right? Because we're so trained to not trust one another, to judge other women more harshly, to, have separation and scarcity and so on. And then and I, when I really look at it, I don't have anything against women at all, but it was an automatic knee-jerk reaction. And then I get the call and I go, but there's so many women's groups. Back when there was like 4, now there's 4 million, right? But and then I get the call and I go, but why me? You should be talking to Gloria Steineman or someone like that. I'm not the leader in this kind of thing. Anyway, when I finally got over my resistance and went all in, I finally understood why women, why now, and why me.
Yeah.
And I think that actually my version of your version of world peace, my flavor on this is that it's actually about reinventing the patriarchy, which is a system supported by men and women that doesn't support anyone, including old white men. So it's
Right.
about stepping into our power and our purpose so that we can change the world through business, through showing up more, through having more power and ability to contribute more money so that we can fund the things we want to fund, the changes we want to make, so that when we shift business, it shifts everything, including impacting world peace. So I absolutely agree with you. We're just kind of different places on the spectrum, but basically the exact same intention and spectrum. And I'm glad to hear, every time I hear a woman who says, yep, I'm committed to that, there's a lot of men who say enough with the women's groups and so forth. And there's some women who think that too. But until we actually get some equity going on in the world, we still have work to do.
Yep.
And it isn't right now.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Big
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more about your journey in terms of your evolution as a woman and as a person in your process in growing your business, and just as you've aged and saged, what's been perhaps one of the biggest
Right. So before before my cancer journey, I had a full coaching practice.
Mhm.
I mean, I was humming, really, really humming. Yeah. It was a combination of one-on-one
Mhm.
with both men and women, right?
Mhm.
As well as there were companies that I was working with too.
Mhm.
Um, and and then I would either work with them here on Zoom, or I would actually go in person and work with them. And I have some great company stories, really great ones. Um, um, One stands out. May I share one?
Sure, play, yeah, please.
So I had this client who was heading up this really large management team and a really successful business. And there were two women. One was head of sales, one was head of marketing, who weren't talking to each other.
Mm.
And in our one-on-one coaching calls, meetings, actually, we were meeting. Um, um, I was working with him to find his way to
Mhm.
actually handle this, because
Mhm.
how can that work, right? They're not talking to each other.
Mhm.
So anyway, he was really struggling with it. And, he kept avoiding whatever he agreed to do right the week before. So long story short, I said, look, when's your next management meeting? And he told me, and I said, bring me in. So he sat me one end of this huge table, and he was the other end. And then I call it God's hand at play. When they all like filtered in, these two women sat to my left. Little did they know. So there was one other problem child, because head of IT was
Yeah.
a non-communicator. So I helped him through his challenge about communicating in English with the team so they could understand initiatives and stuff. So anyway, so we start the meeting, and he introduces me, then I introduce myself to add a bit, and then so we start to go around the table, and then we come to my moment with these two ladies. And I said, so ladies, so great to meet you. I'm honored to meet you, like something like that. And I said, so I have a question for you. What's that? So what's up with you two not talking to each other? And you could have heard a pin drop, right? You could have heard an absolute pin drop. And so I said, on what planet is it okay that you two are not talking to each other? This is not daycare. This is a business.
Mhm.
And I mean, I just held silence. So then I said, and this came to me, right? I have an assignment for you to do today. Will you agree to do it? Without telling them what it was.
Mhm.
And they went white, both of them. Um, and they thought it was going to be something awful and terrible. I said, so this building we're in is a large building, right? So they said, yes, it is a large building. I said, so the assignment is today, I need you to give your word that it'll be today. You find a padded room, close the door, and don't come out until whatever it is you're not talking about, it gets handled. Will you do it? And my client at the other end could not believe I was going like right for it. And they held the silence in the room, like, nobody was talking. And they both had to say yes. So what are they going to say? No, and get fired, right? So anyway, they got it sorted out that day. That day, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just takes someone willing to grab life by the ovaries to get things done.
Right, right. Well, avoidance is never a strategy. One of my sayings, right? It's
Exactly.
never a strategy, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So anyway, so getting stuff handled is good in business.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And you know, a big part of that is that I can tell is part of who you are is to simply face what is and deal with it head on.
absolutely. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so what would you say has been one of the biggest challenges for you in growing your coaching practice?
Okay. Well, so that was then, right? So now fast forward to now. When I got diagnosed and I started the chemo, I had to dramatically downsize. I didn't have the energy. I didn't, so I kept a handful of clients. And so I was also at the same time starting to build group stuff versus one-on-one,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I kind of stayed doing that and with some success, but I still have to manage my energy even to this day. So I'm not rushing. I'm not rushing to bring on 3,000 clients and like that. Although, what a dream come true, right? But so I still have those clients, and I am building my Ignited Women of Impact community and like that. That's exactly where I'm at right now. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to do group stuff, which is wonderful because we do so well when we're not home alone, right? When we learn from each other, we support each other and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Well,
I'm exciting.
yeah, and it's very important to make the business fit your life rather than the other way around. So
Oh,
many
that's well said.
times
Yeah.
people try and fit their life around their business,
No, right,
and that makes no sense, especially as we get older, because you know, you mentioned managing energy. We need to do things differently as we get older. I don't
right.
have the memory I used to have, so I need to make better notes, and I have to have systems
Okay.
and processes that keep me, or processes that keep me on track and doing things when I'm supposed to do them. But
Right,
it's an adjustment. It's just a change. It doesn't mean it's good, bad, right, wrong.
right.
You shift from one to one to group work. You shift from doing it, you know, all in person to doing it on Zoom because of COVID. You just shift to make it
Exactly.
work. So, what is your when you first started out, though, if you can, you know, remember back then, what was one of the biggest challenges you had with getting going in this world, in the coaching realm?
Well, yeah, it was a big challenge because I had no prior experience with, for example, getting booked to speak. Um, Speaking, that was brand new too.
Hmm.
But in the coaching training, they said, here are some ways, right, to take off as a coach.
Yep.
And it was not Zoom. That wasn't around then.
Yep.
So I actually started getting booked to speak. And I've kind of, I used to be I used to sing and I used to do theater, all through school. And I mean, I'm not shy, right? So
Yeah.
anyway, so my best speaking gig story is it was a very vibrant group.
Mhm.
They were all business owners, and they also did charitable work together, which I loved. I loved that whole kind of heart-centered business group, right? That language didn't exist then. But anyway, so I start my talk, which I prepared for the evening, and there was a woman in the third row, like middle, and she started heckling me. Her name is Cassie. She is now a lifelong friend, right? Just so you know, there's a happy ending to this. And I could feel the room slipping away from me, right? Because they were all laughing at what she was doing. And so I don't know where, I call it like God sent me this thing. Here's what I did. I went like that. I should kind of surprise myself just to get everybody like back with me, right? And then I said, okay, ladies and gentlemen, Um, my only agenda for the evening is that you get great value from our time together. So how about we coach live in the room? I don't know where that came from, but honestly, there was a moment of silence where Cassie was looking at me, and then I said, "So who'd like to go first? Raise your hand, right?" And so nobody raised their hand. So I said, "Well, Cassie, how about you?" And very non-aggressive, right? Not like I'm going to get my revenge here. And so I said, "What's your biggest challenge right now, Cassie?"
Mhm,
And she paused for a minute, but then she shared what it was.
mhm,
And I coached her live in the room
mhm.
around that challenge. And I said, "Who'd like to go next? And who'd like to go next?" Hands were going up. I knew I was going to get business that night.
Yes.
One of those gentlemen who came up to me, and he was having trouble with his ex-wife and his business, right? Chaotic. He didn't know how to lead. So they were running the show. Anyway, he turned into my husband.
Ah,
That's where we met that
you got
night.
a lot out of that speaking engagement. A lifelong friend, a great story, and that's pretty good. And probably other
So that's how it all started, right? It
awesome.
was, yeah.
Okay, so if you can remember though, because you were working in a corporate job, high level position, very
Yes.
demanding, probably a reasonably great salary, and
Yep.
perks and so forth.
Yep.
How did you make that leap to go from that to starting your own business? You hadn't been an entrepreneur before, right?
Um, well, I'm from an entrepreneurial family,
Okay,
so
you've been around it.
had my brother. I've been around it, but it was a very real thing. So
So
how
how
did
did
I
you
do
make
it?
that leap?
Well, I I have stories galore. Okay, so I was it was very difficult because I was working for vice chairman of this big corporation,
Mhm,
and I'm working crazy hours. And I was heading towards my first marriage, my first wedding, right? And I'd invited Peter, to my boss, and he and his wife, a judge, to come, and they said yes. So
mhm,
now, one evening, because we used to work together at night
mhm,
after 7 p.m., well, when everybody gone home. And so one evening, he just looked at me and said to me, "Don't leave me."
mm,
And my heart sunk to my
mhm,
feet, right? Oh my God, I'm not ready to tell him yet. I need this job. We need to fund the wedding and stuff like that. So I wasn't ready to talk to him. And from that day forward, he just kept asking me, "Okay, you're not leaving me, are you?" And finally, I sat him down one evening and I said, "Look, I have found this thing called coaching. I
mhm,
do want to, at some point, move into it, right? We just talked it out basically.
mhm,
So I did it very part-time while don't know how I did it, but while I was in that job. And then I needed to move to Orange County for the wedding and then move there, right? From Los Angeles. So I couldn't commute. It was too much, that commuting thing, right? And so anyway, but he early on said to me, "Okay, find your replacement." And I went, "Well, I'm not ready to leave yet." Right. And he said, "Andrea, trust me, just trust me." And so I had to start looking for my replacement. It took a few people to find that woman who was fantastic.
mhm.
And it all worked out just perfectly. It all just worked out.
Oh,
So it came, so I started my business when I actually moved to Orange County. And then my first husband, it was a very short marriage, but my first husband was involved in a big group with people, and he networked, that word networking back then. And so I was able to start growing my business really fast,
cool. So
really fast.
so you were new at it though. How did you bring a sense of your own value to that? Because often when coaches are starting out, especially if they've come from another arena, they don't
Right.
feel like they might have imposter syndrome or whatever. So how did
Oh,
you
big time.
have the
Yes.
confidence, or what was the way that you thought about things so that you could go out and have the networking be effective?
Well, it circles back to this thing that I was doing when I was 3 years old,
Mm,
right? Chatting,
mhm,
like no agenda, just chatting,
mhm,
I'm getting a chill as I say this. You know, when you say something that's really powerful, right? Well, I'm getting a full body chill. So I just kept remembering who I really am. And I saying really authentic to that 3-year-old who loved to chat. And this is what I do. I'm here to like make that difference. So yeah, so it wasn't hard. It was easy. But I think the strategy of remembering who I was a really important one. Really, really important. If I can like share with your audience that really just don't pretend to be somebody you're not, right? Just be you, because you're more than enough the way you are. You're going to attract the perfect people for you if you just full blown just be you, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I can stand in line in the supermarket and I'm chatting,
Yeah.
right?
I can tell that would be the case. And so what would you say to that woman who might be at the same place you were 35 years ago, but now when they're 60 or 70 or whatever age, and they're considering going out and starting an enterprise, perhaps being a coach or a speaker or a
Fantastic. I say yes, totally do it, because we have so much. We've acquired so much wisdom along the way, and savvy, and knowing how to be with each other, and um, love somebody. I mean,
Mhm.
I believe that what makes a great coach is to really care, to really come from that place of uh, eagerly wanting to make a big difference
Yeah.
with and for the clients.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Well, let's talk about that, creating their dream life, whatever that may be. So it might be moving into a business as a coach, or it might be starting an enterprise, it might be a social enterprise, it might be a nonprofit. A lot of the work that you do is helping people identify what is their dream life and how do they manifest that and create that.
yeah.
Let's start with the first thing. How do you help them identify their challenge that's getting in the way and then create a way to get free of that?
Okay, honestly, I have this thing called KISS, keep it simple, superstar, right? Not stupid, superstar, right?
I like
So
that.
we go for that. We go for bringing that out of you
Mhm.
so that we can get some idea, right? Ideally, who you'd like to work with, um, and it's a conversation, right? It's just an exploratory conversation. Let's join those two together, um, and it's usually on one side or the other, the business or the personal, right? So we know we've got those areas, or it could be both,
Mhm.
right? I have coached many, many, many women who have both going on, right? Something on both sides,
Mhm.
where, oh, okay, well, where do you want to focus first? What's the most urgent here? Um, yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of one client who she was, it was an interesting situation. So she was an executive role in a big corporation
Mhm.
and miserable. Her boss didn't talk to her. I mean, like, how do you do that? How do you succeed when your boss doesn't talk to you?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
right. So we worked on that and we got him out of his cubicle and like actually communicating a bit more, which made her life more doable.
Uh-huh.
So we were we just played with that, right? I call it playing, right? So on the personal side, it was really interesting. So she had 2 children from the previous marriage. She's a great mother, absolutely great mother, and she had an amazingly wonderful boyfriend who she'd been dating for quite a while, and they were living together now with her 2 children, right? And she just felt guilty all the time
Mm.
because she thought she was setting a terrible example to her children, right? Not being married to the man she's living with.
Ah, right.
So, her moral kind of roots, right?
Mhm.
And so I stunned her in one call where I said, okay, by when do you want to be engaged? And she said, what? I said, by when do you want to be engaged? So she said some way up there. I went, no, no, really, when do you want to be engaged? And she said, well, I'd really like to be engaged by Saturday. We were at the beginning of the week. So I said, okay, now like set that intention.
Mhm.
She says, well, what do you mean? As we talked about that. And then I said, okay, well, all right, I'm holding the attention with you that
Yeah.
you're engaged by Saturday. So guess when he actually proposed?
Saturday? Friday night?
Friday.
Friday night?
Friday.
Yeah. That's that
Power
makes
of intention.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Power of intention. So, I always have fun with what I do with people,
Yeah.
and they have permission to not be quite so gripped and tense, serious, right? Oxygen to the brain kind of stuff. Yeah, it was fantastic. And my husband and I were invited to the wedding. It was a beautiful wedding,
Lovely.
absolutely beautiful wedding. Yeah,
Lovely. So,
yeah.
and appropriately so, because otherwise she might have still been hanging out waiting. So how do people figure out what tools to use, what techniques to use to support people in really figuring out not just what they want, but what's stopping them and what's getting in the way? Because for a lot of people, especially making transitions from corporate to entrepreneurship, reinventing themselves, redefining themselves. Who am I if I'm not the executive or the mother or the whatever, those roles that are no longer active? For many of them, there's anchors. So how do they identify those anchors that need to be lifted?
I use questions. I'm sorry to give you simple answers, but this is what I do,
Yep.
right? Because I'm very intuitive, so
Mhm.
I pick up on maybe one or two things. So it's not like 400, right?
Yep.
And I get this sense of, if they're in a job they hate, right? I mean, okay, so how's it going? And he was an asshole again this week, right? And stuff, right? Okay, so how long do you want to tolerate that?
Mhm.
What do you mean? And we get into that kind of dialogue.
Mhm.
So, if you could change, what would you want to change? You want another job? Like, what would you like your next step to be? Kind
Mhm.
of, I tread around it like that,
Mhm.
so that I never, never, never tell clients what to do.
Mhm.
For me, it's 100% facilitation,
Mhm.
right? And including my intuition,
Yep.
right? So I get there a bit quicker maybe than most because of that.
Mhm.
But it's about paying it as a coach. It's about paying attention over there.
Mhm.
I'll
Yeah.
point to you, right? It's all about that. And so it's an honor to help facilitate out of them what it is they really want.
Right.
And that's when we start working on it, right?
Yes, absolutely. I often tell clients before I work with them that I'm as much consultant and mentor and advisor as I am coach, because I do tend to be more directive, especially in the business development side of things.
Sure.
And a good coach asks good questions, but a good way to coach ourselves is to ask ourselves better questions.
Oh,
And
sure.
starting with things like what you just said. Where am I at right now? What is my state? How do I feel about this? What's really
Right.
going on underneath the surface? Digging down a little bit to really be present with what is. Then what do I want? What would I like instead of this? And then what are some possibilities, even if those possibilities might seem impossible? What are some possibilities? And I think for many clients, one of the biggest challenges is to open up to the possible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So limited in
Yeah.
what we
So
allow ourselves
sometimes
to
it's
believe.
like you almost got to verbally massage them to relax.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have a tool that I use all the time. And
Yes.
here's the tool. It's my magic wand.
Ah, yes. Okay.
Yeah. And so I use this as a permission giver,
Hmm.
right? So waving the magic wand, if it were amazingly perfect right now, whatever it is, what would it be? And I give them permission to like go with the magic wand and say something,
Yes.
right? So that's the only tool I use. I
Okay.
mean, in terms of physical
All right.
tools.
So
Yeah.
Andrea, you wave your wand, and ladies
Yes.
and gentlemen who are listening to this, I want you to watch this magic wand, because through the power of technology and Zoom and AI and all of the advances we're making, you are now magically given the right to choose what you want your next 20, 30, 40, 50 years to look like, and what your ideal life would be. And what would it be if you actually asked yourself, what do I want? And then how am I going to make that happen? Because that's a much more powerful question than can I? How do I? So
Exactly.
once people identify their ideal life, what do you find is one of the biggest things that they need to do next in order to step into that?
I would say manage your mind. So stuff's going to come up because, oh my God, I'm doing it, right? Oh my God, panic, 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 red alert, change,
Yeah,
right? So, so
exactly.
especially us women, what I've noticed over the many years is these three things can absolutely kill a dream: worry, fear, and self-doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Worry, fear, and self-doubt. One of the first things I did when I was diagnosed with aggressive breast cancer is I had a meeting with myself in the mirror right outside my office. Um, how are you going to walk your own talk around this worry, fear, self-doubt?
Mm-hmm.
So it was crazy because I called myself on it like right away, even though it was very real,
Mm-hmm.
like like the most aggressive breast cancer on the planet. And so I really danced my way through this
Mm-hmm.
because I was holding myself to being an authentic coach.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah. And
absolutely.
I asked myself a second question, by the way, which is, how are you going to remember this every day?
Mm.
And I thought that was a really good question.
That's a
And
very good question. That's a great
what
one.
I came up with is that I was going to wear bling, like, can you see sparkly and
Yeah,
sparkly
yeah, yeah.
every single day? This
Okay.
is going to remind me to sparkle every day.
Ah,
Yep.
very wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
anchor of the intent.
I and I'm still doing it right now. I'm still doing it right now.
Uh,
So it helps me through all the worry about, like, what about like growing your business quicker and all the head noise, right? That we all, us smart women, we
mm,
have, because you
there's a
have to
lot of
be
it.
smart
Yes,
to be
yes,
this complicated, right?
exactly.
Yeah,
Well, and I'm assuming, obviously, because you've been doing it for 35 years, that you are a pretty fierce advocate of coaching as a great way to support people in stepping into their dreams. So, how do
totally.
people find out more about you? And you have a gift for our friends here. So, tell
I
us about
do. I do. All right. So I have this short book that I created around the cancer journey, but it's really not about cancer. It's not. It's not at all. So the link to this book, it's my gift, is www. Woolf with two O's, andreawoolf.com/new book. And
that.
please, please, please go get it for you, for yourself, and please share it with everyone you know. I
Mhm,
just really, because so many people have such a struggle
mhm,
going through things like cancer. It doesn't have to be cancer,
mhm,
anything that's challenging in life.
mhm,
Um, so it's a really powerful little book. So obviously my website's andreawoolf.com.
mhm. Okay.
Um, and
Where do you hang out on social media?
Oh
The
yeah, so I am on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. What am I forgetting?
TikTok, Snapchat,
No,
Twitter. There's so many of them. That's okay. Instagram or Facebook and LinkedIn are pretty good. And
yeah,
so if you were going to give some advice to that woman who or man who is out there contemplating the next stage of their life and really wanting to create something new, but not really trusting that it could happen for them. Maybe it's too late. They've got some version of worry, fear, and self doubt going on. What would you say to them? What piece of advice would you like to leave people with?
first of all, please hear this. It is never, 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 never too late. Okay, the more we're on this planet, the more experience we have to share, the more wisdom, the more love, compassion. You pick your noun. Um, if you stay awake about, how you've become, what you've developed as you've matured, and you want to bring all of that to, if you're deciding to become a coach, for example, like we have an advantage as these experienced, wise, compassionate, amazing women that we are at our age. So it's not less that you're older, it's much more. Bring those riches with you, really own them. I mean, in all humility, this is not about ego. This is really about that connection that we can have, and that authenticity that we can have because we've earned the right. Yes, 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 yes. Am I hearing
Yes.
100
Amen.
million yeses?
Amen. Preach. So, I agree wholeheartedly. Yes. And as I forget who used to say this to me, but as long as I'm on this side of the dirt, it's a good day. It's a good day to be able to do what it is I want to do, be who I want to be, have what I want to have. So, ladies and gentlemen, please do reach out and get support. And
Yes.
something I'm going to give you I was actually planning on giving this away anyways on this call, but it makes perfect sense now. I wrote an ebook on how to choose the right coach for you. And if you're contemplating hiring a coach, of course, talk to coaches like Andrea, myself, others,
Yes, please.
to see where you resonate, to see who is the right person to both. I call it giving you a kick in the context. So, and who will hold your heart and hand as they do that, as they kick your context. And without it, it is so hard to get past, to make changes, to get past the challenges and all of our stuff's right on the end of our nose. I've got 2 coaches because coaches make a difference and they help me accelerate my results. They help me be the person I want to be more consistently. And they really help me actually see what I can't see because we don't know what we don't know. And so that really helps in getting further faster. That old African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I actually think if you want to go fast and far, get a coach. So go
I
together.
love that.
Yeah. So I'm going to put a link for that into the how to get this ebook on how to get the right business coach for you or the right coach for you. Please go and download it if you're looking, and book calls with different coaches so that you can find the person who is right to support you. Call brilliant people like Andrea, who has been passionately committed to supporting people in their journey for decades. It's people like her and I who have been doing this for a long time because we care, because we want you to win, that are here to support you. So take advantage of that. Stop trying to do it all yourself. For the love of God, lone wolf, that's so 2007. So not this century. So let's get sensible and get some support so that you can make the difference that only you can make. Thank you so much for being here, Andrea. I really appreciate your passion, heart, your commitment, your enthusiasm, your unstoppability. And I really also appreciate that you have written this book from the perspective of how to be intentional about overcoming those challenges that we all encounter. So thank you for the gift of you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, please go download those resources and like, share, subscribe to this podcast. Please pass it on. There's so many maturepreneurs out there who don't have a community, who think they're alone, and you're not. So please bring them into this conversation and listen for more resources that I'm creating for you soon. Take care, everyone. Have a bodacious week. Bye for now. Thank you for listening. I'd love it if you left a comment and subscribed. And I encourage you to apply one aha from this interview right away so you can turn your wisdom into wealth and your contribution into positive change. Bye for now.